What if I told you you don't need to sacrifice your wholeness at the altar of busyness? Often we compartmentalize ourselves and we focus so much on one area of our lives, especially if we're entrepreneurs, that we forget about everything else, or everything else becomes suddenly less attractive to us than our business. But you should not be sacrificing your wholeness at the altar of busyness. In today's episode, we are talking with Josh Haynam from Interact, which is an amazing quiz software that we exclusively use here at Flourish Marketing. He not only talks about wholeness, but he also talks about how to use quizzes to make that good hard cash and also how to maintain great boundaries even when you are spiraling down into burnout. All right, let's go.
Welcome to the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast with Alea Harris. This is the place where you and your fellow empire-building entrepreneurs come to vanquish the burnout monster and boost your glow and cash flow with energy alignment techniques and tried and true marketing strategies. Since 7 figures won't get itself, hit that subscribe button and never miss out on your chance to skyrocket profits, tap into your intuition, and manifest your dreams. And now, your host, Powerhouse StoryBrand Certified Guide, award-winning marketer, bioenergetic business coach, and Japanese whiskey lover, Alea Harris.
You are more than just the sum of your parts, and you're definitely more than just your business. I often say words like empire builder because that is what I believe that you are listening, and that's what I for sure as heck know I am. But what does that really mean? I realize that can be interpreted into meaning, oh, I just work and work and work until I've gotten all of the money stacked up and I'm living like a king or queen. And that's not the full story. An empire, yes, does mean multiple streams of income. Yes, does mean that you have the freedom to do what you want to do, but it also means that you are the energetic emperor or empress of your own domain, your own energy, which means you don't have the constraints on your time or energy that you would otherwise. When you're building your empire, you are building it so that you can be boundless. That's the point of building an empire. That's why it's like, yes, you can build a business, but if you're building a business, you often create a job for yourself and you feel like your business is owning you instead of you owning it. When you build an empire, you embrace the fullness and wholeness of who you are as a human being, as a spirit having this human experience, so that you can feel what it's like to live a robust life. So, what does that mean for today's mantra? Well, today's mantra is I cultivate the expansion of my whole self. I cultivate the expansion of my whole self. Say it with me. I cultivate the expansion of my whole self. I cultivate the expansion of my whole self. Don't deny the rest of you just because you are building an empire or you're building a business. You are more than your business, and your business should be used as a tool to facilitate the rest of your glorious life. Now let's dive into talking with Josh from Interact all about, yes, quizzes and why we all want to know a little bit more about ourselves, but also how he cultivates this in his own life. Hey there, Josh. Thanks for joining us on the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's a sunny day, so that always feels better.
Yeah,
And I'm here, so enjoying life.
getting some vitamin D.
Yes, yes. It's like I live in San Francisco, so it's not guaranteed. So
No, no. And then sometimes I'm originally from the Bay Area. I've spent a lot of time in San Francisco. And then you're like, maybe the afternoon. Maybe are we gonna do it?
right.
And it's like, nope, didn't happen today.
Nope.
Still
Nope. Try
foggy.
again tomorrow. Try again tomorrow.
So, Josh, you are part of one of my favorite companies because your company makes me lots of money. Tell the people what you do
That's an easy one.
and the problem you solve in the world.
Yeah, I mean, we have a company that it's a software for making personality quizzes. And the reason why that helps make money is that it allows you to connect with your customers at a more human level. It's not perfect, it's not conversation, but it's like three steps ahead of what most marketing is. And it works extremely well. I just did an analysis, and these numbers aren't live yet, but when when someone sees a quiz, 12.6% of the people that see a quiz become email subscribers, which is
What?
absurd, like absurd, which is
No one
crazy.
else can say that. You cannot say that about a social media post. You cannot
Mm-mm,
say, "Oh, wow.
mm-mm. You can't say that about anything.
That's a really high number."
Yeah, and that's why we started the company in the first place 10 years ago, me and Matt, my co-founder. Like we saw that because we built a quiz for one client and it had similar results. And it's been the exact same thing for the last decade. And now just a lot more people are using it, which is awesome. And we're super excited about it. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much what we enable people to do is create quizzes that connect with your customer and also get them into your world in a way that no other kind of marketing can come close to. And so that's what we do. I'm the co-founder of that.
I adore it, and the company is called Interact. The website is tryinteract.com, and I use quizzes, when I in my own business, I have 3 active ones right now. We're gonna be building out a 4th, using the Interact platform, and the Interact platform is the exclusive quiz platform I use with my clients when we're building lead generators, and every single time they're like, "I wanna build a lead generator. Should I do a PDF? Should I do a checklist? Should I do" and I said, "Do a quiz." Because they have the highest conversion rates of lead magnets. And I love that I say it probably in a little less eloquent way. I'm like, because people are narcissists. People want to know about themselves. They want to know how they're doing. They want to know how they stack up. They want to know what they're all about. So they're like, oh, can this quiz tell me my bridal style? Or can this quiz tell me what I should do based on my zodiac sign to decorate my house? Absolutely. We could totally do that for you.
Hmm.
And you're going to give us your email address to do that. And then email marketing is, my jam. So, Josh, your business and I are a match made in heaven. So, thank you for creating it.
That's great. You're welcome. Although it's not me at this point. It's like the team and I am like this little bit on the edge. So all credit to the team.
All credit to the team. Well, thank you, Interact team, for helping me and my clients make money.
Yes. Yes.
So let's dive into the very first question here because you say it's your team now, which is great. But I know, no, 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 it has not always been your team. You didn't even have a team, it was just you and Matt in the beginning, right? So, how then did you experience burnout and how did you avoid it afterwards so that you could stay in alignment personally and professionally?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I burned out real bad. The first 5 years were no boundaries with work at all. I would wake up every 2 hours all through the night to answer customer support requests. I would be completely up and down depending on how the business growth was going, which was pretty much always down because it wasn't growing. 5 years in, we were still a micro company with three people. So we had fluctuations in our team. We hired people, we fired people. 5 years in, we were three people again, and it was just really depressing, honestly. Although that's a real word, so I won't use the word depressing. I will say it was very tough on the emotions, and it was draining. Um, that's what it was. And so I completely burned out. We got a few lucky breaks and ended up actually starting to grow, and that was when I realized just how tired I was. And so I took about 18 months off, almost off, like maintaining what I had to, but pretty much like just reconstructing my life from the ground up. Um, for a year and a half. And now I'm back on and really enjoying it, but with so many more boundaries around work and also just other things that I super enjoy in life. And that has incentivized me to really be more grounded and centered and have more things going on other than just work. And so that's not a direct answer to the question, but basically that's my story with it.
That's an absolute direct answer to the question, and I think that a lot of people can resonate with that. I mean, I've been burned out before, and it's like burned out before, not burned out again. Damn it. Now I'm okay, now I'm better. Damn it, I'm back. And every single time it goes back to what you said. It's a lack of boundaries or pushing boundaries or you flex the boundary a little bit and then all of a sudden it's just gone and
Mhm.
you're back to where you started. How have you then maintained those boundaries to continue to not, I guess, not continue in that cycle?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I really like there's a book called The Upward Spiral, which is exactly what you're talking about, where you do end up circling back around to the same things that are a struggle, but it's going upward. So it's slightly better. And then you circle back around, it's slightly better. So that's definitely been my experience. It's not like now everything's perfect and I've turned this corner and I'm never going to look back, right? Like I still fall into it. And, for me, the the funny metric because everybody tries to wake up earlier, that's like a whole thing. But for me, my stress,
That for the record, that is never my thing.
right? And
I
I
am like, no, I am never been a morning person. I was not even the kid on Christmas morning that was like, "Let's wake up." I was like,
Yeah,
"Mom, I'm gonna give you a good 9 AM." 9 AM, that's good for you? Like, "No, no,
I'll sleep
no."
in. I'll sleep in. Smart, smart. Yeah, I mean, I am not at all a proponent of telling people they should wake up early. That's just what I like doing. It's just kind of my thing. But my
If you naturally do it, it's very different.
Right, right. I think you go with where your energy is. That's the best way to do it in my opinion. But my stress manifests as waking up earlier and earlier. So I know I'm back on the stress cycle if I'm starting to wake up at like 5 and then like 4:30 and then I'm like, maybe 4 and then I'm like, wait, what the hell am I doing? So that's
That's
how I
awesome.
know
At least you
that's
know
how
your
I know.
tell.
Yeah, that's my tell for sure. Um, so yeah, I think the biggest way, honestly, that I keep those things in place is by having things that I truly enjoy outside of work. So spending time with my partner, spending time with my friends, spending time with family, hobbies that I really love doing. I my partner and I have gotten into making candles, which is great, but you need a lot of time for that. And
If you
so
sell any candles, I will buy. I'm kind of a candle hoarder.
I know
So
a lot of people are. We're working on it. We're working on it. It's not quite there yet.
okay.
But yeah, that traveling, being outdoors, things that really do light me up, and that I know will kind of fulfill and give different meanings to life other than just work. And so while work is great and I love it and I love figuring things out, I think that was a big part of what I learned on that like 18-month sabbatical is just I can really enjoy my life with no work. And so adding back in work, it's like, okay, well, I want to be done with this so that I can go do those other things that I enjoy. So I like thinking about it in a positive where it's not like, oh, I need to do these things because it's good for me. It's more of I really want to do these things, so I wanna get my work done and feel like I can actually disconnect and go do other stuff that I enjoy.
I love that. I especially love the way of framing it as one knowing yourself and knowing what you enjoy. Because I was thinking maybe a year ago, I was like, "What is my hobby?" Actually, somebody else asked me, "What are your hobbies?" And I'm like, "What do you mean a hobby? I own a business. There's no hobby. There's nothing. There's nothing else but the business. What do you mean hobby? What the hell is wrong with you?" Like I was like almost angry that they would ask me that when I realized I was really just angry at myself for not having any other hobbies. for no other interest, for
Mm.
nothing else that was taking up my mind share, that was drawing me away from work. And so then I got me some hobbies. And I think that that truly, you're right, really does help to say there's something else bigger, grander, and greater, and reconnecting with the other areas of yourself, which is very interesting because to me, that relates exactly to what you do by being able to have that platform where other people can create personality quizzes. You are literally helping more and more people discover things about themselves. I think that it's very nice that you're really on brand.
Yeah, I think we didn't start it with any of those intentions. We started it because it worked, but then the good thing is that it does allow all those things to happen. It allows people to discover more about themselves, and the more you discover about their sure self, like yeah, you can find things that you enjoy. You can find stuff outside of work, and I think that's very important.
I think is incredibly important. And so we're discovering stuff outside of the work, and I'm definitely waiting for that Candle URL to drop in my inbox. But let's switch it to your work at Interact and talk a little bit more about quizzes and how they help people, empire builders, scale their businesses while enjoying their entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways, and there used to just be one, and now we've kind of grown and expanded a little bit, which is very exciting. So the primary way still is to use the quiz as basically a virtual you on your website. So when a new customer comes to you, there's inevitably a conversation that happens, and there's inevitably a shape around that conversation that's generally similar. And so we can just imagine kind of deducing that down into like 7 or 8 questions, turning that into a quiz, putting it on your website. Like my favorite example of this is this amazing coffee shop in San Francisco called Henry's House of Coffee. It's 3 generations of people who are coffee roasters, and the grandson interviewed the grandpa to make this coffee matchmaker quiz. And it's just incredible because that's the whole point of Interact, is to get that like personhood, that personality, someone who has lived their life roasting coffee, to then be on the website helping you find your coffee. Like that's the premise of using a quiz on the homepage of your site. So that's kind of the front and center version of it. The second version is to add an interactive element to all the content that you make. So there are blogs that use quizzes mid content. You're writing an article about work styles, right? And you're writing an article about how the pandemic has changed the way that we work. And in the middle of that, there's a poll that says, how many hours a week do you work? And you can answer that poll and see what other people do because Interact has that. And then there's further down in the article, there's a quiz that's like, what's your working style? And you can figure out, just like we were talking about earlier, like maybe you are the early riser, super regimented person. Great. But maybe you're the creative, your inspiration gets sparked by having very little structure to your days. And one day you wake up at 8, the next day you wake up at 11. Perfect. And if you lean into that, you go for that, then you can get a lot further than if you try to squeeze yourself into this box of whatever you think you're supposed to do. So that can also go in the article, right? So that makes content, podcasts even have links to quizzes in them. Um, Really, any kind of content, you can add this interactive element that helps people learn about themselves. So that's the second use case, is sprinkling it throughout the rest of your content to make it more engaging, interactive, personal. Just feel more like you're engaging with a person rather than just getting a download of information.
But you said that there were 3 use cases, right? There was the first one that you talked about that was about the virtual you, and then there's a second one, the interactive element on the content. Was there a third use case as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the one that I always forget because I'm terrible at social media. Um,
Oh!
so this is why I'm like, I'm not good at talking about this one. We have great social media people I interact, and I don't do any of it. Um, but yeah, basically making interactive social posts. So as you're going throughout your day, you're scrolling through your feed, you see a quiz on there, right? That's like let's say it is about candles, right? Like, what's the best candle scent for you? Um, and that works extremely well. Going back to that like 12.6%, right? Like social media is tough because depending on the algorithms and how things are favored, you might get a bunch of people, you might get no people. Um, so it's tough. It's really, really tough. And so one way that a lot of our customers are turning that audience into a much more valuable audience is by sprinkling interactive posts that link to quizzes that then get people onto your email list throughout their regular cadence. So, maybe once a week, they'll drop a link to a quiz, and you can do different types of quizzes. You can kind of have a quiz of the week model. You can do all these types of things that are super fun, and makes it more, it's also a way for you to connect with that social audience in a way that's more mutual rather than just always like a one way kind of thing. So, that's the third one that has really risen in prominence, especially as algorithms have gotten a little harder to predict, more complicated, that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely interactive social posts. That's a big one.
I love that. And so when you're saying, just to clarify, that it works, because you said, oh, it works. What you're saying is that you're getting people from wherever they are onto your email list. Is that correct?
Yeah, and there's also like the psychological elements of like we were talking about before, the narcissism. That's the I like there's always multiple facets to everything in life as you know. And there's the narcissism, but there's also this element of like people getting to express themselves by answering the questions, and self-expression is a big deal. And it actually causes kind of a really a more connecting experience. And so that's the other element of it where it makes your content more memorable. But yeah, the main thing is getting people onto your list, because then email marketing at this point is proliferated and people know, and there's a lot of good stuff out there on how to make your email marketing more effective. But you know just think about it, right? Like, I'm on this one coffee company's email list, and it's not even my favorite coffee brand, but they keep popping in my mind because I keep seeing their emails. That's email marketing, right? And like the numbers around that are consistent since the beginning of the internet. Like, if you're on someone's email list, you're much more likely to buy from them. So getting people on your email list versus having them just follow you or read a blog post or listen to a podcast episode, much, much, much higher value, like an insane amount more. It depends on who you ask, but it's like 2 to 10 times more. So that's the value, is really getting those people into your world.
I love that. I'm a big proponent of email marketing. That's what one of the services that we do is we build sales funnels and email marketing funnels at Flourish Marketing. And I'm constantly telling people email marketing has higher conversion rates than social media and search combined. So the goal is to build up your squad. Also, you don't own your social media list. So this happened to me. I was felt brutally rebuffed when Instagram decided to delete my account. They deleted my Instagram account. And when they did that, I was like, okay, first of all, that's rude. Second of all, I will be getting that back. But third of all, I was not as bothered as I could have been because I have an email list. And I built the majority of that email list through speaking engagements and quizzes. And those are the people that buy from me. I can have predictable revenue when I send out an email for something. I know the percentage of people who are most likely going to buy, and I can use it to plan my cash flow out. Like, quizzes are the gateway. It's like the heavens gates open in the form of a quiz until profit. Like, that's that's how I view quizzes. But I didn't even think about using them in some of the ways that you have mentioned using them. So I will be using more quizzes now. Why? Thank you for your contribution to my marketing plan, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of our grand vision, is to have just this portfolio of templated quizzes that people can modify and use so that you can use them in all sorts of ways. Because I like the gateway. That's a good one. Like, I don't use that super often, but now I'll steal it and I will use it.
It's
Um,
all yours.
appreciate it. Appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, it's a gateway, but there can be lots of gates, right? Like, it doesn't have to be just a wall with one gate, right? Like, you can have little gates, you can have big gates, right? And so that's
Yeah,
the
you can
idea.
have more than one quiz that serves more than one function. I think that people get so caught up in they think, "Oh, a quiz, that sounds like a lot of work." I'm like, "Nah, girl. You can do a quiz, like a 10-question quiz with 3 results. You can probably write those in an hour, build it in 20 minutes inside of Interact, and you're done."
Exactly.
And then it's like, how much money is that gonna make you? For me, once I got hooked and I saw how profitable quizzes were, I'm like, "Okay, let's build another one of these suckers. Let's run some Facebook ads to it. Let's see how we can go with this," because just like you were saying, it is very consistent. The more eyeballs that are on the quiz, the more people take the quiz and the more money you make because the more people end up on your email list. It's not a gamble or a risk.
Yeah. It's dead consistent. I mean, the number, so that's the views number, but of the people that start it, it's 38.9% become a subscriber, which is exactly the same number as our very first quiz in 2011. So
Wow.
but the numbers are different, right? Now that 38.9% is an aggregate of like 120 million quiz takers. Back then it was like 1,000, but it's literally been the exact same number for a decade. And when I was doing research before we even started the company, quizzes aren't new. They've been around for as long as people have been around.
They've been around since Tiger Beat magazine. You took the
Mhm.
quiz in the magazine, right? That's a quiz, it's just not digital.
Exactly, exactly. So nothing new, nothing groundbreaking. It just is what it is and it works. And so yeah, those numbers are just dead consistent.
I think that's really great, especially for new business owners to keep in mind because when you're a new business owner, you don't have a whole lot of cash. So you're really looking for the one or two things that you can do that is kind of like a guarantee or as close as you can get into the world of entrepreneurship as a guarantee. And over the past 10, 11 years of doing quizzes, you're like, it's flat. This is a guarantee. Just get the eyeballs on the quiz. You'll get the people on your email list. You'll make the money. Bada bing, bada boom. And I think that it can be a reassuring thing for people to do. And it's what I also recommend that people do. If you're doing a lead magnet, if you're trying to work on marketing, get a quiz, get people on your email list. Fastest way to make money. And, it's not always fast, but fastest. How about
Right.
that?
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. Like, you do only get a couple of shots. I mean, of course, you can like go back around and try, but like, yeah, such limited time. And of course, there's best practices and all that kind of stuff. But we did so much work to put that stuff into our platform now. So it's kind of like, works with you as you go. You follow all the best practices, get the stuff out there. Yeah, and it's so consistent over time. It's almost eerie. Every time I look at the numbers, I'm like, this time it's gonna be different. Nope. 40%, 40%,
Wow.
40%. It's just the same thing all the time.
I love that. That's very comforting to me, Josh. I didn't even think I needed comfort from you today, and you gave it to me. I
Well, there we
appreciate
go.
that.
There we go. Numbers, numbers.
Numbers.
Yep.
So, though, you're saying that, for the past 10 years, these numbers have been consistent, but you didn't know that 10 years ago. And you've gone through serious periods of burnout, serious periods of, as you said, tough emotions, tough feelings. But if you now, knowing what you know now, could give one piece of advice to your past self, the version who existed about a year or so after starting your business, what would that advice be?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would just be to go slower. You know, I I do some like business coaching now, and the URL for that is build slow. And it's kind of my mantra at this point because, even present day, right? Like now my roles and responsibilities are much higher level, but it's still tempting to want to do everything at once. And oftentimes, I'll get to the end of the day, it's 5:30, whatever time I'm like, okay, it's time to sign off and go do other things. And I'm like, well, if I could just push through and get this figured out, then maybe this would be solved. But then what I find over and over again is that I disconnect. I go spend time with the people I care about. I do some exercise or whatever it is I'm doing that evening. Enjoy my night, enjoy my time. And then inevitably, I wake up in the morning again, and whatever problems I was, facing at the end of the previous day, there's new solutions that come in. There's new ideas, there's new ways of looking at it. And I didn't do that for the first 5 years that we ran this company. I did push myself until 9 p.m., 11 p.m., whatever. And in retrospect, what suffered was all of my other habits that kind of kept me whole, and a lot of my relationships. I remember realizing that I just hadn't kept those things in the appropriate balance. um I think that's what I give the advice of. It's hard when you're at the beginning because you don't have, this kind of thing to rest on and be like, okay, well, I've accomplished this. I can at least look at that and take a break. So I think it's really about learning to take breaks even when I don't think I've reached the goal, which is just so difficult. But the practice of it over time has yielded much more of a enjoyable life situation for me. So that's what I would tell myself 10 years ago.
I love that. Not using breaks as a reward system for completion, rather using breaks because that's how you need to function as a human being, right? That you
Mhm.
just need to take breaks. I
Mhm.
think that's really, really sound advice. Now, Josh, now is the magical time in the interview when we move to the journal question. This question, and for all of you listeners there on the airwaves at home, is a question that you also should take back and journal about to do some deep thinking about to see what type of things you might be able to unearth. And Josh here is our victim, I mean volunteer, who is going to offer the very first insights on said question. You ready for the question, Josh?
Let's do it.
Absolutely. The question is, and very apropos with the conversation about quizzes, what techniques do you use to deepen your curiosity?
Yeah, that is a good question. That's definitely a question for journaling about. um yeah, I think there's a few things that immediately come to mind. One is talking to people who I was gonna say are different than me, but I feel like that's overplayed. I would just say like talking to people who I'm curious about. Like, how did you do what you do? Why, something about you sparks my curiosity. Like, can I just ask you questions about like what you're doing? Across all sorts of different things. I'm constantly reminded that it's not just like other people in my small world and bubble that I can learn from, that I can grow from. Um, so that's a big one. I think like also this one is more along the lines of those people who do things like cold exposure and this crazy stuff, which I don't do that because it's too cold. But things where I throw myself purposely outside of my routine. I'm super routined because that's the way that I get the most stuff done. But I really like to purposely break my routine. So if I'm always, getting up at a certain time and I have a morning routine, then I'll just purposely not do that for a few days. Or if I'm, doing one kind of exercise, I'll switch to a different kind of exercise. If I'm seeing certain types of people and friends routinely, then I'll like reach out to old friends that I haven't seen in a while. Something that just like throws off my rhythm, that also like sparks more curiosity about the world because I can tend to get into like a lap, and after a while it feels like the lap becomes a trench, and then I'm in the trench and I can't even see what's past the trench. But then every once in a while you're like, all right, I'm gonna go make a new path, see what happens over there. So those are a couple things.
I love that. Those are really great things. I just almost like being flexing that curiosity muscle helps build it. So actively, proactively saying, I'm going to get curious, planning to be curious, planning to step out and allowing other things to happen to fuel that curiosity. That's amazing. Well, Josh, I've adored talking with you. You've given me more ideas for my own marketing, my clients' marketing, definitely for everybody that's listening. Where can people find you? How should they get in touch with you? You also mentioned some business consulting. Tell us all the things, all the things.
Yeah, there's many things, many things. We have a yet to be launched candle brand, so that's number 1.
Yes, yes.
Which may or may not actually happen. Um, Interact, you said the URL, tryinteract.com. We have a free plan so you can go around and play with it, see what you think, all that kind of stuff. For me personally, I run most of my business things through LinkedIn. So you can search my name, Josh Haynam. I think I'm the only person named Josh Haynam in the world. So you will find me. My last name is very unique. Um, yeah, you can find me there. You can find stuff about Interact. You can find stuff about business coaching, all that kind of good stuff. I've also started writing a little bit on there. And I also have a similar story to you. I got kicked off of LinkedIn as soon as I started writing on there for no apparent reason, and then they let me back. So
I didn't even know LinkedIn did that.
just one last pitch to do email lists instead of social media. Although I'm telling you to go find me on social media, so
I
that's
mean,
ironic.
we're not
Um,
vilifying social media, but we're just
yeah.
saying don't put all your eggs in one basket.
This is a good yes. It's not that those things are all bad and email's good. That's just a trap. But I think in terms of longevity, which is what we're all about at Interact, email lists good for longevity. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for joining. I've learned a lot. I have another quiz brewing in my brain based off of the advice you've given us, and I appreciate all of your words of wisdom.
well, thank you. I appreciate being on. This was a ton of fun. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
This episode is brought to you by Copywriting by Flourish Marketing. Do you experience peaks and valleys in your revenue? That's a stressful way to build a business, and it makes scaling impossible. One day, you're buying a new Louis bag, and the next, you're rubbing together your coins to dive into the racks at Ross. You don't have to struggle with financial feast and famine. A strong email marketing funnel provides you with a captive audience that's eager to buy your products and services. At Flourish Marketing, we use the StoryBrand SB7 framework to create lead-generating PDFs, quizzes, ad copy, email sales sequences, website wireframes, and weekly content to attract, convert, and close more clients. If you're ready to start generating more revenue on autopilot, visit www.flourishmarketing.co and schedule a call today. A strong email list means that you'll have more headspace to focus on your zone of genius instead of stressing about bills and making payroll. Jump on the No Stress Express at www.flourishmarketing.co.
Wow. I loved not only hearing Josh's story, but also getting some more idea for quizzes. If you see more quizzes popping up at flourishmarketing.co, you will know exactly what podcast episode inspired those quizzes to be created. But I hope that you took away more than just the fact that email marketing and quiz creation are the way to go if you're looking for more reliable marketing. I also hope that you took away that you can be curious about things that you might not be curious about otherwise. You can maintain boundaries by having things that you truly enjoy outside of work. And you also can take time off if you need to reconstruct your life. It's okay. Give yourself permission to live. That's what this is all about. You're not building this business because you're like, I know what I want to do today, build a business. No, you're building the business so that you can live a life that you love. Don't lose sight of that. Don't lose sight of your vision. And more importantly, don't lose sight of yourself. Thank you for joining me here on this episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast. We are here every Wednesday with new episodes. So I will see you here next week. And until then, I'm wishing you lots of love, light, and abundance. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast with Alea Harris. Dive into the show notes at www.flourishmarketing.co/podcast and connect with Alea at Flourishing Entrepreneur on Instagram. Vibing with what you hear? Leave a 5-star review to spread the love and be sure to click subscribe. From the entire Flourish Marketing team, we wish you love, light, and abundance. See you next time.